Should mention, this is also the first week of Ramadan. Some jihadist groups like ISIS use Ramadan to stage brutal attacks. Let's look at the investigation into the Orlando massacre.
Yeah, retired FBI agent and KPIX 5 security analyst Jeff Harp joins us. And Jeff, there have been questions about why the SWAT team did not enter the club sooner to try to stop him from doing what he did.
Yeah, and you know, there's a lot of armchair quarterbacking and hindsight 2020 things that'll happen, but you know, when they show up on scene, they have to assess the situation, you know, officer safety, you know, to the public. And so they also, you know, not knowing whether Orlando has a full-time SWAT team or not, there's people showing up on scene. If you've got sheriff deputies, you've got city police, you've got various agencies showing up, they have to come together and they have to have a plan. You don't just automatically run in and do something. You don't want a blue-on-blue situation either, where you have officers shooting at each other. Right. So they have to assess it. That does take time. It also takes time to get all the equipment there. If they had an armored vehicle that they wanted to ram the wall with, I mean, if that truck's not on scene, it takes time to get that truck from wherever the staging location is to the scene. So these things evolve. They don't always evolve as quickly as people would like to see them evolve, but there's a set plan that they have to put into place in order to make sure it's done safely.
And they probably need to know also what the layout of the club is like and where this gunman could be, right?
Ideally, in a best case scenario, they're going to get blueprints from whoever has access to the club. Other things that they'll do is they will interview people as they're coming out. They'll ask them, okay, where do you think the shooter is? And these are very quick questions that are asked very specifically so they can put their plan together, their emergency assault plan together very quickly.
Okay. You know, the FBI had investigated the shooter before. He'd come under surveillance, I think, or at least some kind of an investigation several times in the past 4 years. And I think the question tonight is, first, how many people like this do the FBI investigate and say, gee, this guy's raising some red flags? And two, how could somebody like this, who's come under suspicion before, secure guns legally within 2 weeks of actually committing this horrific act?
Well, so there's the process that the FBI goes through to clear somebody or to say that they don't pose a threat. And just because you're under investigation by the FBI, and we certainly don't want the FBI to keep a list of everybody that they talk to and then use that list at some point. I mean, I think we got away from that long ago in the J. Edgar Hoover area. Yeah. So what they're trying to do is they're looking at this person, they'll make a determination based off of an interview. They don't have a search warrant. They don't have an arrest warrant. This is basically a threat assessment that's done. They go out and they talk to the guy. And if the guy decides to cooperate, that's great. But the guy's only going to volunteer whatever he feels like he needs to volunteer. He's not going to say, yeah, you're right, I'm a terrorist. It's time to arrest me. And so they're going to use whatever tools they're allowed to use by law to do this threat assessment. They're not tapping any phones. They're not doing any surveillance. They are simply going out there and talking to this guy. And if it's based on a tip, if it's based on, you know, I believe the coworker had said that he had spouted some hate and discontent towards either some groups or some, you know, some other things he had said. But the FBI is going to talk to him, and they're going to do what they have to do to get that investigation moved down the road. If they find that there's nothing there to say he's involved in terrorist activities, then they'll close that investigation.
Okay, so just by virtue of the fact the FBI has talked to him doesn't mean that your name's bounced off a list for being able to get a gun, nothing like that?
No, I mean, he's looked at. If he came under the FBI's radar, before they go out and talk to the guy, they're going to do all their checks to, you know, does he have any registered weapons? You know, who is he associated with? And if he's not associated with anybody, and if he's just exercising his First Amendment right, freedom of speech, if he's just doing that, the FBI
can't do anything.
No, right. I mean, we live in America, so you're allowed to say what you want to say. You know, can't say fire in a theater, but certainly you got to stay. You know, we want the FBI to operate within the parameters that they're legally allowed to do so.
And this is still so new, so we'll be learning a lot more.
The days and weeks to come, yeah, there's going to be a lot more that we learn.
Thanks, Jeff.
KPIX 5 security analyst Jeff Harp, appreciate it. Thank you, Jeff. Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump both took to social media to express their condolences, but Donald Trump repeated his call to ban Muslims from the U.S. Trump tweeted, if we do not get tough and smart real fast, we're not going to have a country anymore. Because our leaders are weak, I said this was going to happen, and it is only going to get worse. I'm trying to save lives and prevent the next terrorist attack. We can't afford to be politically correct anymore. He didn't mention the gunman was born in the U.S. And Hillary Clinton also released a statement. Part of it reads, this was an act of terrorism. For now, we can say for sure that we have to redouble our efforts to defend our country from these threats here and abroad.